Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Leadership with a Twist podcast. I'm your host, Heather McGonigal, and I'm here with my trusty sidekick and co host, Barbara Schindler. Welcome,
Hi,
welcome.
everybody. Hi, Heather.
Hi. And today we are joyfully continuing where we left off in our last conversation. Our last conversation was all about leadership reputation. And Barbara and I wanted to pick up where we left off, talking about what are you actually demonstrating in the everyday through how you're showing up. So I talked in the last podcast episode about leadership reputation. If you haven't listened to that one, that is like a key teaching that a lot of leaders we have coached over the past decade really love. It helps them anchor themselves as they're working with their teams. Go back and give it a listen. And if you haven't listened to it yet, you can still pick up, join us right here today for this conversation. What are you demonstrating? What are your actions actually showing to your team every single day about the type of leader you really are? How are you showing up? Now, if you're a parent, you probably are aware your kids watch your actions, right? To see, do you actually practice what you tell them to do? And they're looking to see if your actions match, what you're telling them to do and how you're telling them to show up. But it's the same in business. If you want to have a strong leadership reputation, it's great to have great values for your company. It's great to have a positive leadership reputation that you say you want to anchor yourself in, but it's where the rubber meets the road in the everyday interaction, in how you show up under stress and pressure, in how you show up in that team meeting, that your team is really looking and seeing who you are as a team member and a leader.
Right. And certainly, we've had conversations, Heather, about impact and influence in different levels of an organization. So, with responsibility comes authority and comes even more exposure to what you're demonstrating. And when I think about this, we talk about, well, you know, what's the next level is what I think about this. It's like this is how you level up.
Yes.
Being aware, when you walk into a meeting or hop on a Zoom call, when you're facilitating your team meeting, when you're building an agenda for the team meeting, adding to your intention to be aware and consider what you're demonstrating and paying attention to how you do through the day and notice those areas where you might not be actually demonstrating where you truly want to show up in a different way. It can be in communication, it can be in, connections of structure, really anything, right? From actions to words. Being more aware and observing with lots of compassion for yourself and others. But this is a way to take it to the next level. And I think it's really a current times topic. People are more vulnerable and in their roles. There's a lot going on in the outside environment that's impacting jobs and business success. Career paths, well intended and planned, are being disrupted by the external environment in business and in financials, right? So it's there's a vulnerability for everybody out there. So more than ever, leveling up, like what am I demonstrating? What am I demonstrating right now as I'm collaborating with Heather in this conversation? Am I dominating the conversation or am I going to toss the ball to her soon? Like it's a simple thing like that. Am I showing up the way I want to as a collaborative partner with Heather? So with that, I'm going to pass the ball to you, Heather.
I think one of the key words that you said early on was intention. And like I said in our last episode, when we talked about leadership reputation, you would set yourself up with your anchor statement for the leadership reputation you're going for. And then to build on that, if you want to use Barbara's word of intention, that's a great focus, would be to be intentional about reminding yourself of your leadership reputation anchor statement before you go on a team meeting, before you start your day, before you interact with your team in any major way, so that you can remind yourself, this is my intention in a leader, as a leader, and you allow that to inform and shape how you show up. I also, through what you were sharing, Barbara, had a question because I thought compassion, you said compassion. And compassion is something we definitely need more of for ourselves and for others in the current environment, because it's a very fast changing, high stress, complex business environment. And because of that, greater compassion is needed because it's not an easy environment. So, how do we have more compassion for ourselves first, and then for, I think I'm saying for ourselves first, because if we can't have compassion for ourselves, we can't really demonstrate it and therefore have compassion for others. So, how
Very true.
might a person have compassion for themselves and then therefore demonstrate it in a team environment in a stressful workday?
Well, I think the quality we talk a lot about is curiosity, and it's so an important characteristic. So some of this that we're talking about here, what am I demonstrating, is to approach that with curiosity, not with critical eye or criticism or judgment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Curious to how I'm showing up, curious how it's landing, the way that I speak, or, the we are most blind to those habitual ways about ourselves that become these habits that we become unconscious. So that intentional consciousness is important because it's like, when did I pick up that way of phrasing things to the team? Am I sincerely acknowledging people's work? Did I get, I don't know, caught in a habit of just saying, good job, and forgetting how important it is to sincerely acknowledge somebody's performance,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, am I deepening the relationship in this connection? Am I creating more trust in the way I reach out? Am I demonstrating good self care when I'm staying in the office 8 o'clock at night every night and telling, oh, yeah, yeah, you've got to be sure you work your work life balance, and I'm not demonstrating it,
Okay.
right?
I also think, to answer my own query to you, I think one of the ways you can demonstrate compassion in a high stress environment that's hard to do is to be okay with imperfection,
Mm-hmm.
to create an environment where it truly is okay that mistakes happen. This is easier said than done because nobody actually wants mistakes to happen on their team or in teamwork. And so it can be really, really hard to hold the space and create safety for everyone when mistakes do happen. So I think that is a place where you can work to create demonstrating safety, finding the learning when things go differently than we planned, and
I was just going to say growth mindset
yeah,
makes a huge difference. Fixed mindset, it's supposed to be a certain way. Growth mindset allows us to go lighter in our work.
yeah. I just feel like making mistakes is a good area to look because it's one of the things that in theory we're okay with, but when it happens in reality can be really hard to be with.
Well,
And how do
when
we
I'm yeah, I was
how
going
do
to
we
say
make
that's
it great? Yeah.
it's a very tender area for high achievers. And there's so many times I'm in a coaching situation with a high achiever, and that part of the learning curve, right? The growth part of our roles, taking on new responsibilities, or in this case, we're really inviting everybody to what's the next level of my performance, right? So
Mm.
seeing, what I'm demonstrating, really hard to have that kind of compassion as you're talking about, Heather, to intentionally take a look and not judge or criticize or, you know, move too small, actually stand up in the space and say, how might I do that differently? And I think that might be helpful too. Structure when we're making change is so important. So you're really good at this, Heather, but there might be like 3 questions to ask yourself. Okay, now I see what I'm doing. What would be the 3 questions? Like, how could I do it differently? What impact am I really going for? I don't know what those 3 questions would be, something like that.
Hmm. Yeah. And, for our listeners here, I'm not saying that you just let go of any and all mistakes on your team because poor performance is a thing, but mistakes do happen and they happen in from the best of us. And so it is a place to look for compassion and applying compassion for ourselves and others, definitely in a high stress, high performance environment. So I do think it is a good example. The other thing I wanted to talk about is I think that when we consider what are we demonstrating in our leadership, it's easy to be a leader that people like working with and being with when the conditions are easy and the stakes are low. And it's harder under stress and pressure. It's harder on the final day of a launch when cart is closing soon and we're not close to our numbers and we're feeling the pressure and the tension. It's harder on, after many, many hours of a long, long day under stress and pressure. Whatever the situation may be, the higher the stakes, the harder it is. But that's actually where our team is looking up to us more to demonstrate our leadership.
Right. So, what's the key to being able to pause to get
Well,
yourself into a good self-regulated position under stress and strain?
the pause is key. And I think knowing for yourself, having a high stakes situation recovery plan for yourself that allows you to be really, really well resourced, well taken care of under high stress and pressure, and that is something you're demonstrating and doing, taking extra care of yourself because this is an extra busy time, because it is all hands on deck, extra hours, extra pressure, high expectations, that you're actually doing extra self care that's visible to your team. And you're encouraging them to do the same, not through your words or not just through your words, but by the fact that they can actually see you doing it. Again, this is about what are your actions demonstrating, because people really can tell and get the dissidence and the difference of working in a culture that is like, oh, sure, we're all about the people. We want you to be healthy and take care of yourself. And then they get inside the company and they just see
I
survival
see a
culture.
stressful day. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
they
know,
see like it's not real. Oh no, people are people are just working as much as humanly possible, and and then they see that those words don't match the environment, right? So what they are looking for is the actions from the leaders that actually match and demonstrate that healthy culture.
and they're not coming in a company thinking there's not going to be a stressful day and
Right.
that everything's going to go according to plan. So that behavior piece is so important. And remembering our humanness and the whole person that each of us are. We're not, just robots in the company, right? Like we are actually humans who have feelings and sensings on many, many levels. And one of those things is that reactive primitive brain that immediately floods our minds with judgments under stress and strain, and the goals aren't being met, and it's the last day of the sale or whatever. That immediate reaction inside us, that's unconscious just happens, starts looking for blame. It's just a mechanism within our own primitive being to try to be okay. So we need to override that with a practice and demonstrate continuously that we can self regulate with that, taking that pause and having that plan to how do I remind myself that we are here, it's all good, and we're going to work with what becomes the next what is the next results that's coming forward instead of panicking and allowing these judgments to run through. So part of that is releasing and centering and reminding, right? A grounded reminder of who you are, what the situation is, and how you and your team will approach working what comes forward.
For sure. Yeah. And I like how you started that with how no one really expects perfection. Nobody is expecting some fake perfect environment. We're all human. We know it's not going to be perfect. We're just looking for some demonstration of care for the human element, that you actually care that I'm a human in this too, and
Yes.
that you care how the people are doing in the midst of getting the goals, getting the achievement for the company, that you actually care about my own well-being, my own survival in the midst of it all. Because, we have worked with companies for over a decade, and we've worked primarily, Barbara and I have worked, we've worked in brick and mortar companies, but also a large majority of remote companies. And these cultures have been so high achieving, people so committed to their companies and so hardworking. If anything, it has always skewed to the side of so dedicated, so hardworking, giving so much that, getting everyone to really be in balance of like wanting to get the mission and goals and also take care of themselves in the midst of it and have that healthy balance has been a key part of our work with all of our clients. We've met very few lazy people, I guess, if I were to bottom line what I'm
Not
trying
really.
to say.
Over a decade of
Yeah.
working, right? Yeah,
Um,
lots of companies, lots of leaders, but
I, I
the
hear,
commitment for
I
the
hear
mission.
Yeah, I hear stuff in the larger stratosphere that, looks down on remote culture, remote working culture, and I just cannot understand it at all because I have met zero lazy people. I have met people that are working so hard that I have to get them to move protein bars to their desk so that they are taking care of themselves while they are working very, very hard for their careers and their companies that they care about. And what they want in return for all of their giving is that the company cares that they are humans in the midst of it all. And so often, what they want from the leaders is some demonstration of that care. Not perfection, just demonstration of care for them because they are giving a lot. And so what are you demonstrating is the question that Barbara and I started this episode with, that we wanted you to think about, tied to your leadership reputation. So you have your leadership reputation that you're going to anchor yourself. This is who I am and how I want to show up. This is the reputation I want to build for myself. And you can build that for yourself regardless of the company you're in or what your title or position is. And you can build it every day through what you're demonstrating. And you can recenter yourself at any moment in any day by asking yourself, what was that reputation I was going for? And how am I demonstrating it right now? And that's why Barbara and I wanted to have this conversation with you. And I hope it was helpful. Barbara, did we miss anything? Anything you want to add?
No, but if you want help with discovering and taking a look at what you're demonstrating and thinking about how you can take care of the whole person within yourself and your team, Happy to chat with you more. We'd be happy to have a one-on-one with you. Heather, you can tell them how to connect
There's
with us.
always links underneath the video here to schedule a call with Barbara or myself. We do these calls free of charge because we love what we do and we love to help you take these teachings and apply them to your unique scenario. So please take us up on this opportunity. Again, you'll find the links underneath this video or underneath where you find this podcast. And please reach out. We'd love to support you. Otherwise, we hope you got a helpful nugget out of this conversation. And please join us back next time. Thank you, Barbara, for being here with me. And thank you all for listening. Take care. And thanks for being here for Leadership with a Twist.